Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Watch News Weekly. As usual, I have my trusty partner, Marco Ferrante, with me to talk about what we talk about every week. We got new releases, we got some numbers. Bloomberg is putting out numbers, and some company called the London, Subdial, some London-based statistics company that tells you about what watches are selling or not, and I have no idea where they're getting this data, but certainly something to decide. Some new surprises a couple of new surprises from Louis Vuitton. I think they're on the right track, as well as we're going to talk about a couple of sneaks, one from Rolex and one from Omega that finally landed on planet Earth. But let's talk about the topic of Patek and Rolex stabilizing. Now, used Patek Phillipe and Rolex prices stabilized for a second month. This is according to Bloomberg's subdial watch index. They're saying that it declined 0.01% to $33,628 according to data provided by Subdial. Now, this is a London-based trading platform, which right off the bat doesn't give me a lot of good feeling about it, because London prices or UK prices are roughly about 20% higher than most of the world due to their VAT implications.
Yeah.
So they're taking 50 most traded luxury watches and they're averaging out a price, and now they're at $33,628.
I just don't know where they aggregate their data from. The issue is it's so hard with watches, because where are you pulling that information out of, right? Obviously, you have the majority of transactions that are completely silent. I mean, how many millions of dollars are exchanged every single day on the chats, right? And that's the real issue.
Goes back to an article. I forget who wrote the article, and they were quoting the Boston Consulting Group, and they were saying that the secondary market should catch on to the primary market by year 2026. And my argument was, I think it's already bigger than the primary market.
I think it's way bigger than that.
I think it's way bigger, because what these companies don't have. So Marco probably has on his phone, I would say probably to the tune of 50 plus WhatsApp chats that have an average of 400 to 500 dealers on it that are trading stuff on a daily basis. This is what you don't see. You don't see the B2B trade on the secondary market. That's not data that anybody can provide. Now, you can get data from companies like ours, companies like Watchbox, to the tune of what our yearly sales are. Some of those sales are going to be B2B. The problem with this data is you're taking a segment from the primary market. The problem is this market also has trends.
I mean, not
top
even
50 traded watches last year are not the same as they are today.
Yeah, and not to mention 50 is there's thousands of watches traded every day.
I agree.
50 is not an indicator.
Listen, if they had access to all the data, I would certainly agree by taking, because what they're doing is they're giving you the top 50 traded watches, they're giving you what the average price is, and they measure it that way.
The sample is not big enough, right? Like 50 watches is not enough. When there's thousands, like 50 models is like, you can go down.
No, hold on. This is Rolex and Patek, so I think 50 is plenty.
Okay, I get. That's true.
With Rolex and Patek, I think 50 is plenty. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that the 50 popular watches this month may not necessarily. How do you measure what are the 50 popular watches? You decide. You don't measure. You technically decide. I will agree with this but it's also based on a small segment of data, my own data. I know that the Rolex prices have stabilized for more than the second month at this point. I know that the Patek prices, the popular ones, have stabilized.
Not even just stabilized. A lot of Patek Philippe prices has started going up.
Started going back up, exactly.
This is the issue.
I will also agree with the statement that the Bloomberg subdial watch index is down 42% since April 22, when the market has peaked. I will agree with that, because popular models have got down an average of about 40%.
And even take, for example, and the reason I say some have gone up, you take some of the discontinued models just over the last month to 2 months, 5712G, 5980R on Strat, all those models that are now rumored to be discontinued or kind of confirmed have all gone up in price. Not to mention even in Rolex, right? Like a Yachtmaster 2, that's not probably a popular model in the top 50. Those are rumored to be discontinued. They're going up in price right now, and this is the real issue. Is it's a good.
Their data is going to be way off once Watches and Wonders hits, because there's going to be new models coming out, models discontinued.
Yeah,
they're going to find, and this is going to jump all over the place. And again, unless these guys can prove to me that I have access to secondary market data, specifically the B2B business that goes on every single day to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, I don't find this data liable. However, it does match, and I agree with the numbers. I agree with the numbers, but again, mind you, I am now basing this on an even smaller segment of data, and that's our own, what we sell. Yeah. So if we're selling here to the tune of $10 million a month, we're going to base it on that. But again, it's also based on availability. Sometimes we don't have the stuff. If we had it, we would have sold more of it, right? There's so many factors go into this. At the end of the day, these are catchy titles. much like Russian oligarchs buy $9,000 pair of sneakers, because this is a popular topic, it's a catchy topic. The numbers are not off, and I'm not surprised that they're not off, because if they're going to take top 50 traded watches and they're going to average them out, it's very easy to show those type of numbers. Here's one. The most in-demand models from top Swiss watch brands show declines of less than 1% last month for the Audemars Piguet Jumbo Royal Oak, Patek Nautilus 5711, and the best steel, and the steel Rolex Daytona with a ceramic bezel.
Like even, take for example, the Bloomberg subdial index is down 42% since April 2022. You take like, for example, a Panda Daytona, 60,000, now trading around 33,000. Okay, not too far off. You take for
55,
example,
really. It's there.
Yeah, you're right. So it's like it's right around there. If you go like model by model.
But what I'm trying to say to you is that I could have wrote this article without having any data.
Yeah, it's tough to say this.
Let's go to the next slide, and we're talking about sneaking into the Oscars, right? So Rolex apparently released a brand new Rolex, right? It's a Day-Date 40. It's a rose gold Day-Date 40. Of course, they call it Everose. They made a rose gold Daytona. They called it Everose, and it's been Everose since. So the 2024 Academy Awards Day-Date is what the brand describes as an ombre dial, or ombre slate dial, they call it.
Yeah, ombre is just kind of like smoky hue. That's what they call ombre.
I call it Vignette dial.
Vignette
dial.
There's also fume.
Fume dial. There's many ways. I mean, this is a throwback to some of the older Day-Dates that they used to make in a 36 millimeter. Of course, those were the hand-painted ones. This is not. Look, it's a beautiful Day-Date. They don't really put it on the website anyway. You can see it in a clip. Like Rolex website has something about
limited,
the Oscars.
Right. It's also not a limited edition or limited by production either. But I'm sure certainly it's going to come out and trade out of the gate.
Listen, this is a good way. Rolex is so popular that when they nonchalantly show it in the Oscars, somebody already picked it up, and obviously it is somewhere on their website when they talk about the Oscars. This is just a preview of one of the new models that we're going to see here in the next couple of weeks. So it's a pretty watch.
How good would it be to see a 40
Would you do this or the olive?
No, olive for sure. Rose gold olive is as good as it gets.
Yeah, see, so look, it's just nothing more than Rolex doing the same thing over and over. It's just very, very subtle changes on models that already sell themselves, and no exception for this. These will sell like hotcakes. I think it's a beautiful dial, and they will sell well. Let's move on to the next slide. And now we're talking about Bulgari. Now, what was it? Believe it or not, it's the Octo's 10 years old.
Is it really?
Right, yeah, the Octo is already damn near 10 years old now, right? So 140 years is Bulgari, 1884, founded by Sotirio Bulgaris. He was a Greek guy, but he lived in Rome. So this is an Italian brand, although it was founded by a Greek, right? For the 10-year anniversary of Octo line, they did the sketch in the chronograph, if you remember,
the
right?
chronograph, and then the just time only.
And the time only. And when they came out, these are actually the only Bulgaris out there that are trading over lists still.
No, there's other ones. There's like the architect one with the Japanese architect that trade really well over retail. But those when they came out, I fell in love with them. And what they did here, okay, to me was absolutely outstanding. They literally gave you an X-ray vision of what the watch looks like inside via a sketch. Breguet La Tradition vibes, right? Where they remove the dial for you to see the inner workings. Except it doesn't have
this is done by an artist.
Yeah, but it also just doesn't have any of the beautiful movement view of the watch at all, right? It's just
but the point of the sketch is exactly that. It is the sketch. Now they did this 280 pieces in steel and they did 70 pieces in rose gold. I think is gorgeous, both in rose, both in steel. I think this one is a winner. If I was out there buying this stuff, I would pay full list for this watch because I think it goes over.
I would not pay full list. Don't offer me this watch.
The steel one for sure.
We'll see. Let's see how it hits the market.
Marco is a very
I'm a bit
conservative.
more pessimistic.
I know, he's a very conservative buyer. I'm a little bit more rock and roll. Let's go to the next piece of news, and now we're talking about the white dial has finally landed. Now, we've seen Daniel Craig wear a white dial Speedy Moonwatch. It was somewhat of a tease, and now finally they're saying it landed on planet Earth. And look, there have been a ton of white dials from Omega. It's not like it's something so new.
Right.
A lot of commemorative, regional, or some limited editions in the past.
There's been the Racing Speedmasters, Tokyo Speedmaster,
Alaska Olympics,
project.
blah, blah,
Right,
blah,
right,
blah, blah.
right.
By the way, funny thing is, you said the Tokyo Olympic one was the only watch in the world that was released for an event that never happened.
Yeah. Well, it did happen. It just happened after the original date.
Right. Like those Olympics never happened because of COVID, obviously, right? It's going to be part of their permanent collection, right? We know that. And look, there are a few differences between the white dial Moonwatch and the classic Berkshire. First being the applied markers, number one. and rightfully so, instead of painted markers, which are
which
black.
actually it's
And
much
they
better.
do feature a small loom insert. So 50 years from now, there's going to be a bunch of vintage watch geeks that are going to be looping the dial saying, hey, how's the loom? And they're going to light it up with a little black light and so on and so forth. The Omega logo is black. I think
watch.
aesthetically, home run.
Yeah, it's an absolutely amazing looking watch.
Knockout.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, it's a White Dial Speedmaster. They've done this, with red text in a ton of variations, and every single time it always sells well out of the gate, and this is no exception.
This is not a limited edition. They're going to produce tens of thousands of these, and I guarantee you, again,
I just hope they only make it for like 1 or 2 years and discontinue.
I doubt it.
That would be such a
Omega
good
pumps
move.
numbers.
2-3 years.
I would have loved to have seen this, but then again, here's the question: like why not make this a limited edition? I think the whole purpose of this release is to make a regular edition watch, a regular catalog watch, and that's not a limited edition, because otherwise it would look like just another limited edition Speedy, which we cannot count on.
Yeah,
both of our hands.
The issue is it just cannibalizes all the, like if you look at the 2020 Tokyo Speedmaster that they did with the white dial, I mean, it looks like this pretty much, right?
Well, listen, the Alaska Project Limited Edition looks like one of the Swatch watches. So look, there's a lot of things that companies will cannibalize, but they're not thinking about the past. They're looking into the future. And I doubt this is going to be discontinued quickly. This is going to stay in the catalog for a long time. This is sort of going to be that white dial, black dial Daytona, white dial, black dial Speedy. That's regular production, and this is going to stick around for a while.
Great looking watch.
Hot take: if I gave you a choice today, take the white dial or the original black dial.
Oh, white for sure in this
Same.
case.
I would maybe because it's new, it's a novelty. It's not something.
No, it just looks great. It's phenomenal.
It does look great. The bezel pops, the subdials pop,
I
the
always
markers
say this,
pop.
right? It's very easy to find a black dial sports watch. In fact, most sports watches have a black dial. It's actually much more difficult
what are you saying?
to find a really exactly, that's my point, right? It's really difficult to find a really well executed, good price point white dial sports watch. There's just not that many. Like if you think to yourself, there's like the Cartier Santos Explorer 2 from Rolex, right, with a polar dial. I mean, there's a few others here and there, but there's not, like, it's few and far between.
Most sports watches are going to have a dark dial. It may not necessarily be black, but it'll certainly be a dark dial. So now, next we're going to go to Louis Vuitton, and I'm pretty excited about this. And I'm excited about Louis Vuitton in general. LVMH being a powerhouse of a lot of things. Went into the watch game very, very seriously, and right now, they, I believe, are climbing the ladder slowly, but in proper directions, starting from watchmaking, going to design, going to the factories and what they're able to produce, the people that are using, the watchmakers that are using. All those things they're just doing slowly but surely and properly. Bottom line is they have a ton of money and they're able to do so. And they're starting to hit a lot of genres. For example, this particular watch, which is the Escale collection, right? And this is called the Cabinet of Wonders. And what this showcases is just showcases craftsmanship, right? Louis Vuitton, when it comes to other things in what they sell, right, is known for their craftsmanships. For example, shoes, certain clothing, obviously their history, the trunk making, the luggages, the purses and all those things, right? Clothing is sort of a side product, right? But they're going in a very, very, very proper direction as far as I'm concerned. Your take on LV in general and their watchmaking?
Ever since they acquired, it's a movement making company or watchmaking company called La Fabrique du Temps with the head watchmaker Michel Navas. They've just done spectacular job. They've really reshaped what Louis Vuitton watches are. Louis Vuitton used to be a fashion watch company, right? Watches that you wouldn't really take seriously. You would buy them, you'd be looking at it.
Much like Chanel.
Yeah, a 70%
Dior.
drop. It wasn't like, but even Chanel got Romain Gaultier, and they really cleaned their act up and have some really, really good watches. But yeah, Louis Vuitton has really been hitting all their strides. And what I love about this is it features very unique techniques, right? They go back in history, things that have been lost for hundreds of years that haven't been done in a very, very long time. Essentially lost art forms that are now being reimagined and put into watches, which I think these are all knockout.
I mean, these are labeled what we call it métier, right? Métier arts, like a lot of these companies do, and it starts with everything: the gem setting, the engraving, the microsculpting, right? The enameling, the miniature painting, the marquerie. There's all what you just said, all those things. There's even Damascene in there, like as in Damascus steel, right? Yeah. And Pellion enameling. There's different types of enameling. Now, the three pieces is the koi garden, the snake. The snake juggler and the dragon.
The dragon is my favorite.
The dragon, right? And all these were inspired by rare objects from the personal collection of Gaston. right? Now this guy, Gaston Louis Vuitton, he used to collect katana sword tops. Those are the circular things, right?
Okay.
That sit where the sword goes in, right? They're called sword guards, right? And he had over 800 of them in his collections. And a lot of those things were inspired. Also, on every single dial, somewhere, if you look closer, on somewhere is actually his initials, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
so it's like a Where's Waldo kind of thing, right? He led the company all the way into the 70s, right?
Wow. Okay, so pretty much the modern era.
So look, his love for artistry pretty much shaped modern Louis Vuitton as we see it today. So he was a very important figure in the history of the company. I think what they did is they literally knocked it out of the park with every single one of them. I love the snake, I love the koi ponds, I love the dragon. Honestly, if I'm picking one, I'm going with the koi. You went with the dragon.
Yeah, the dragon I think is so sad. And again, these 2D images really don't do them justice.
If you see that in person.
If you look at the press photos, the depth, the dimensionality of these watches, and not to mention the way all those different techniques from the enameling to the hand engraving, the way they pop all against each other, it's spectacular.
This is I think one of those things in the watch industry today that's very, very undervalued. You know, Vacheron for years has been making Métier the art pieces among other companies, and your modern watch collector overlooks. You either go the hype route or you either go the horology route, but this is neither. This is art form in a small, compact space, done with techniques that go back hundreds of years. And I love the fact that Louis Vuitton, knowing that this may not be the most popular thing in the market today, still went that route, because what they're trying to show the world is that we have the horology, we have Métier,
we're a serious watchmaking company.
We're a serious watchmaking company, and I think
yeah.
This is definitely a step in the right direction.
Even right down to the straps, right? How it resembles the katana.
Yeah, the
guards,
straps
right?
literally resemble the handle of a katana sword being wrapped. And speaking of going in the right direction, the next piece from Louis Vuitton as well, which in my mind is also big news, is going to be the Frank Gehry Louis Vuitton watch. Now, this is them doing what every other company has done, because to make a full sapphire watch is an achievement of its own. While most people will take a look at it and say, well, Hublot did it, and then Grubel did it, and this guy did it, and then Richard Mille did it, and so on and so forth. A lot of times people mistake flexing the ability to do something versus copying something, right? When the sapphire watches came to the market with Hublot leading the pack, and then Richard Mille following suit, and Grubel Forsey, and guys even like Bell and Ross, everybody did it. It's not about copying. It's about showing the world that you have the ability to actually do it. Because creating a watch entirely made up of a crystal is an impossible feat, if you will.
You have to imagine that literally carving out a piece of sapphire and then polishing it, you have to do it with diamond tip tools, and then if you mess up at any point...
What's the error margin there, or margin of error there?
Like, it's so slim because it could crack so easily, right? And if anything happens, you literally have to restart. So anybody who does any kind of 3D modeling with a sapphire crystal, I mean, it's next to impossible.
Well, this one is not just a sapphire crystal that took it to the next level. First of all, they invited one of my favorite living architects, Frank Gehry. I've been to a lot of his famous places that he has designed. In fact, one of them actually stayed in Hotel Maurice de Escale. It's in El Ciego in the middle of Rioja, the wine region of Spain. And not only did I stay in the hotel, which resembles the Sydney Opera House, but colorful, but I even made sure as to book the Frank Gehry suite. And me and my wife were only there for 2 days. And when I called, I said, well, I'm sorry, the suite is not available for those 2 days. It's only available for 1 day. And because I wanted to stay in the Frank Gehry suite, because that's like the best design one, everything inside is designed by him as well, I literally moved rooms one night because I wanted to stay in that suite. It wasn't like a money thing. It was just like I wanted to.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Not only did I want that hotel, I wanted the Frank, because they had a Frank Gehry suite and a Frank Gehry Junior suite. So one night I stayed in the big suite, and then the next night I stayed in the junior suite, which was like, to me, it's like to feel, breathe his architecture. It's something else if you've seen some of the stuff this guy's done.
It's like going to the Sistine Chapel and looking up, right? It's like
it's one of those experiences. I think he's one of the most influential architects that is alive today. And some of this, I'm not going to get into his history and the projects. I've been to over a dozen of his different properties all over the world, and I make it a point, if there is a Frank Gehry property somewhere where I'm going, I make it a point to go there and actually see it. But look, single block of sapphire, right? Not a small watch, 43 millimeters by 11, almost 12 millimeters thick, right? And when you look at it, to me, and again, maybe I'm biased because I see Frank Gehry here, right? A tourbillon, even the lugs. Look at the lugs. The lugs are actually part of that single block out of which they had to etch out this entire crystal watch. And again, this isn't Louis Vuitton jumping on the bandwagon. This is Louis Vuitton once again showing the world that we can do just as well as everybody else in the world of horology. And if a sapphire watch is what some of these guys managed to make, we can do it too.
Yeah, I love the architecture of the movement. Also, very like Quorum Golden Bridge resemblance.
Listen, Frank Gehry, they say, well, we collab with this guy, we collab with that guy. Last collab we talked about was the IWZ Portuguese tourbillon co-designed with Lewis Hamilton. Because I know Lewis Hamilton, well, not personally, because I'm a big fan of Lewis Hamilton. I've watched him race for years. You know, I personally could see the touches. Maybe it's a bias because they put his name on there, but from what I understand, these guys really take the time. Well, this is pretty obvious because, you know, he is a designer, he's an architect, so
right.
And you can see his touches in this watch. But again, I'm going to end this with the simple fact that the last three pieces we just looked at from LV, as well as this crystal tourbillon, is certainly Louis Vuitton's way of showing the world, hey, look, this is how big our dick is. We're able to do all these things. We're able to do it well because personally, aesthetically, that is a beautiful, beautiful tourbillon.
Yeah.
It can inside and out.
Good looking one.
You know, it was literally architected, and again, it's got Frank Gehry written all over it. And they're also not shy from pricing it. It's priced just under $1 million. You know, comparable with RM.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. At the end of the day, if you want to be a premium watch brand, you have to charge premium prices. You have to build up in people's mind, like, listen, we are like a very serious watch brand, and you have to have the price to reflect it. And again, a watch of this caliber, very, very difficult. I can't imagine how many takes it makes just to do one sapphire case.
What people often also don't realize is, they're whacking me for $1 million on this. They think that it costs them $5 to make this
Right.
thing. It doesn't. The amount of we talked about this earlier. We were doing eBay Live, and this is 6 to 7 years of R&D alone. And guess what? The most expensive part of making new projects is usually research and development.
Yeah.
And research and development is that's that trial and error. That's designing that particular watch. Because one of the things people always take for granted when you're talking about new calibers, new movements, new cases, new this, is one simple thing. It has to work.
Well, yeah, and you have to create something new from scratch. And that's what people just don't tend to understand is whenever you're creating something new as a business, there is a cost born, right? The manpower, the skill.
Forget the manpower. How about machinery?
The materials.
How about machinery?
Materials,
if I'm making a new caliber and it's comprised of, let's say, 168 parts, there's new machinery involved in creating some of those parts. There's so much to it. You know, people think, oh, well, now you have, the CNC machines and all that stuff. From the minute a watchmaker walks into a shop and he's utilizing it takes him a half a day just to program the CNC machine to create one tiny little part. You know, there's so much involved, and a lot of this stuff is made by hand. And I guarantee you, this crystal was etched out by hand, and to do that, to make it, have that stuff as part of the case and literally make it look like the Sydney Opera House. It's 3-dimensional. That took a lot of. They cracked a few pieces of crystal. I'll bet you that.
For sure.
So that's going to be it for us for today. I think this was pretty exciting in the genre of new releases. I'm pretty much excited about every new release we talked about. Sometimes there's releases that we mention because they are new release, but we're not as excited. But from Omega, the 2 Louis Vuitton releases, well, technically 4 because there's 4 watches. The Bulgari, I am pretty much excited. Nevertheless, something worth mentioning, because it still is in line with how we feel about the market. So therefore, we talked about it. Guys, I appreciate you all tuning in. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. We put a lot of effort into these videos. So if you're somebody new here and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share this with your friends. Certainly helps this channel grow. And share this information with those who you might find interested in what we had to say. We'll see you guys next week.